Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day, good night to you, friends, and welcome back. Forgive the weird technical issues. I believe we've got them sorted out, and we are now connecting to Twitch TV and TikTok Live. CTech Studios proudly presents... Oh, why is that picture there? That's not where that goes. Oh, I know why. Because it's supposed to be CTech Studios, the design and production company that exists entirely in the theater of my own imagination, proudly presents the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's almost daily variety gaming and content creation live stream show extravaganza, featuring Wednesdays Workshop Writing Wednesdays. The Zeppoverse book series literary world-building project, which is a crossover with our Conversations with Chat AI podcast and our Zeppoverse book writing project podcast. Anyways, variety, chaos, chaos, variety is the theme here, and just trying to make things a little different. Actually, I've been trying to bootstrap myself into launching this particular part of the show for a while now. And we've dabbled and experimented and tested, and so far so good. Anyways, hello friends and welcome. I am your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. I am a fictional character from a book series you've never heard of because I've only started writing it. Because I'm about to start writing it in earnest. For you, for your entertainment, right here, live on stream. I'm going to put this in performance mode so that we get the cleanest video possible. You can read the existing sample chapters by heading over to my link collection page, solo.to/Mr. Zeppo, and then finding the Wattpad link. I do juggle and reorganize the links every once in a while just for funsies, so it may not look like it does on this little graphic. But just look for the Wattpad link, and then you will find my profile there with all the previously published chapters to my book series, comprised of many book series nested inside of 3-part book series. If you don't know what Wattpad is, A, what rock have you been living under? B, it is a social media platform. You can think of it as a Facebook, but for actual books that aspiring novelists like myself are slowly grinding away at. Ow. Hello. Did you see? We've J Turntable. What's up, buddy? Welcome back to the show. My hair is not shorter. I had it tied back in a ponytail. The sides are almost always generally shaved. I'm actually behind schedule on that. It's an interesting detail for you to notice, but there we go. Yeah. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the koofiness. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. So, we will be doing some gaming later on in the course of the day. I still haven't decided. I have not yet decided if I'm going to do one big long live stream or if I'm going to chop it up into little... yes. It's because I had it... It's probably because I had it tied up at first. And then if the ponytail's not immediately visible, the sides are very short. So yeah, from any weird angle like that, it would look different. I'm actually not a long-haired person. I've always supported everyone's free expression right to be weird, long-haired hippie people, or whatever the old phrase was. But most of my life, as an adult, I wanted the lowest maintenance hairdo possible. Because I'm like a path of least resistance guy when it comes to like mundane things that I don't really want to deal with. So this is actually it's still a weird experience to me. Like just doing this with my hair is like, what the fuck is going on? I'm not used to it. And I've had long hair now for I've been growing it out probably going on 6 or 7 years. Maybe longer. Yeah, exactly. Your last chat, J Turntable, you would not be surprised if I cut it all. It is a lot of work maintaining long hair. Yes. How do all the long-haired freaky people do it? Like, ever since I started experimenting with long hair, and before I decided to shave off the sides, this is not even, like, this is overgrown for me. This is too much. I need to shave this, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. But before that, I had the full length. So all of this, the back and the sides was also here. It was just that much more hair. I don't know how people put up with that. Whenever I'm in public, ever since I've started growing it out, anytime in public that I see like a woman rocking beautiful, long, crazy, luscious hair, or a dude with hair as long or longer than me, I'm like, in my head, I desperately want to run up to them as a total stranger, be like, how the fuck do you put up with this? And I also just don't want to know. Like, I don't want to get into it with anybody. But it's been a weird journey. And I'm like 60-40. I'm on the verge of just wanting to shave it bald, like go straight Mr. Clean with it. Or rather, it'd be more of a Captain Picard, because I've got a bit of one of that Captain Picard triangle up here. But I digress. My hair is, I'm still getting used to the beard too. I'm not a beard guy. Like, I especially don't like the so I really don't like mustache. No disrespect to all my siblings that are into facial hair, all the humans out there that are into facial hair, for themselves or in other people. But beards, I don't get them. I really don't get them. When I first started this whole weird experiment, I grew out the mustache too. And I was like, how long can I endure? Like, how long will I let it get before it drives me nuts? And I had it like starting to poke in, like I would get it stuck. Like, there was one hair long enough that it got stuck in my front teeth, and it like, ow! I don't, it's gross. Like my drinks, my coffee, my like soup and food. What? And then never mind trying to like, this has been my, forgive me for going off on a tangent. This has got nothing to do with the project we're working on today, but maybe we'll work it in somehow. From forever ago, like since puberty, when I was like, oh, facial hair, right. I got to think about that. Like, what am I interested in? What do I want in that department? I assessed the facial hair on other people, and I was like, making out with someone must be so gross. How does anybody enjoy smooching on a big, full, gnarly beard? Like, that's just like hair in your mouth. That's someone else's hair in your mouth. Sorry. No offense. I do not judge people with full, big, crazy beards. I just can't wrap my brain around enjoying it, because this drives me nuts. And I'm only sticking to it because I'm going for a specific look on purpose. Sort of, dare I say, in socio-political protest. If I had lived during the original hippie era, even if I hadn't had wanted to rock the long hair, I would be one of the long-haired freaky hippie people. Yes, we did. I did. It's a whole thing, and it's something that it isn't like a casual thing for me. Like, I deal with this every moment of every day, all day long, 7 days a week. And it's perpetually on somewhere in the back of my mind. I cannot tell you how grossed out I've been at how much random knotted up, matted down hairballs I randomly find all over the house now. Because I've just been sitting here doing this and going, ugh, ugh. And yet I cannot bring myself to cut it yet. I don't know why. I'll have to put that up as a pin on the corkboard and maybe write about that as a interesting, weird character trait for someone. But yes, I digress. I may be cutting it really short, really soon. Although now it's wintertime, so, and it's funny, I always do it counterintuitively. Like, I often cut my hair at the end of the year. Like, back in the day, I would, like, so oftentimes be like, it's the end of the year. Like, for New Year's or something. People would be like, it's the dead middle of winter. Doesn't that freak you out? I'm like, I've got hats. I got several very warm and comfy beanies and other things. Knit cap, for those of you who don't know the beanie terminology. I don't know why they were called that. Anyways, thank you for being here, Jay Turntable, actual real-life human being, friend of the live stream show. As opposed to the... I was very much ready for spam bots sales solicitations. Okay, what are we doing? We've got so much on the plate today. It's Wednesday. For a very long time now, Wednesdays, I once came up with a theme. I started coming up with themes for every day of the week because I thought that would help me organize and juggle the way too many ideas for this live stream project that I've got. Oh, here we go. Jay Turntable says, beanies are nice and difficult to wear stylishly with long hair. Exactly. Unless you've got it all tied up, beanies and long hair can be a disaster. But when you go straight Captain Picard, actually Mr. Clean, because Picard still had that little weird thing on the side. I wouldn't do that. The Friar Tuck, the thin little Friar Tuck side. I would never do that. If my hair started falling out the moment the hairline changed, and it hasn't yet, although I think I do occasionally get paranoid and wonder if I'm seeing thin spots at the top. But if I ever really was like, yep, I'm losing my hair, it's gonna go, I would just shave it off and go straight Captain Picard, Mr. Clean with it. Even though I do have a big, ugly, giant, lumpy, cookie-shaped, it looks like what's that cookie cereal? Whatever, remember that cereal that's got the weird cookies? It's like a cereal made out of little itty-bitty chocolate chip cookies, but they're really thick in the middle. It's one of those. It looks like one of those. I've got this mole. It's like a lump on the side of my head. Way too much information. And I'm weirdly self-conscious about it. And like, I know that I am not attractive. Like, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the hot face people are looking for. And I do look kind of cool when I shave my head. I think I look cool when I shave my head. But then there's this like, it's not that big, but when there's no hair, it looks massive. Thanks, I appreciate it. I am actually a funny person. I'm a professionally trained theater clown, improv, sketch comedy artist, and all around theatrical jack of all trades. The only reason I'm not on stage somewhere is because my life was a prolonged and protracted country song. Despite the fact that I was never really into country, but like, I got in a car accident, my car was wrecked. My job unfairly screwed me out of any potential future growth and then discarded me when they were tired of me. Instead of actually engaging with me as an artist, they just used me as a tool, right? It was a dead-end situation, but that's a whole nother story. The love of my life left me because of some dumb thing I said that I realized in the moment of saying it was like the dumbest thing I could have said. And then my dog died. So anyways, here I am trying to commodify myself through the self-commodification of presenting my hobbies and passions that I would like to turn into side hustles that are actually not side hustles. So far, you're my biggest fan, Jay Turntable. You're the most consistent return visiting human being that has, as of yet, not tried to sell me something or lure me into some pyramid scheme or scam me out of money. So, if I had gold stars to hand out, I'd give you one. All right. It's Wednesday, and we're trying to initiate the Wattpad. I shouldn't use the term Wattpad. The Wednesdays writing workshop, or writing workshop Wednesdays. I think that sounds better. Let's go check out what's going on. Truth Illuminates, thank you for joining. And shout out to the other 5 people whose names I could not see because this doohickey, I forgot to tuck it down. Okay. So, as I've explained on other episodes, and I'll explain afresh right now. Let me check to make sure everything is looking the way I want it to be looking. Bloop. Okay, we got DJ Zed playing at the right volume. My camera angle is way too steep. There we go. That looks more normal. Uh-oh. Friends. Okay, so this is Streamlabs. Did they just make an update? Oh, maybe it's the Twitch two-factor authentication. I now have Twitch two-factor authentication, and it only remembers the login for 30 days, and then I forget, and then I'm like, why am I been booted out of stuff? And I gotta relog. I had to relog in to Streamlabs, which is key to my Twitch. Anyways, as controversial as it may or may not be to some viewers, due to the lack of real-life human collaborators willing to collaborate with me for free until we make enough money to pay ourselves, which I get it. It sounds shady to some people. It's risky at best because you could work for months for free and then not make any money. And it requires a lot of like previously established, there's an L in that, previously established friendship and trust that total randos are not going to be like, yeah, bro, let's go. Let's write a book series or let's co-host a podcast. And it's a rare gem of an individual that is like, okay, let's go. So lacking, I'm by nature, by function, by training, and by God-given gifts, a hyper meta collaborator. In fact, I have a whole proprietary and I think I will keep secret collaborative methodology that if I was more established or if I had like chosen the academic route, I would be sitting at a theater department somewhere doing intra-department collaborative experimental projects with theater kids and musicians and dancers and visual artists and painters and stuff to make interesting, engaging, socially conscious, but also fictionally entertaining, multifaceted multimedia art. Instead, I am stranded home alone and have resorted to having conversations with ChatGPT. I started off just sort of tinkering to find out what all the hubbub was, right? And to see how smart or not smart ChatGPT really is. And it's been an interesting journey so far, most of which I have not even shared on live stream or as part of my podcast. Warning, audio verbal disclaimer, portions of this show will include content generated by ChatGPT, and platforms apparently need me to disclaimer that I'm doing that, even though it's pretty obvious because I'm literally showing it to you. By the way, full disclosure, that new logo, let's go look at that logo real quick. Where are we? Let's go to the starting page. Follow me to the starting page. This new logo right here that you see at the bottom, I don't know if it's large enough to read clearly on a screen for the Twitch viewers, or if it's too small. I kind of want to make it a little bigger. But this, I had forgotten that this existed, and then I was like poking around at ChatGPT, and I noticed they have a couple of new menu items, and one is library, which I'd never noticed before. And this was sitting there. Apparently, I'd asked it to make me a logo based on everything ChatGPT and I had ever discussed about my ambitious and massively, overwhelmingly way too big project that I commonly refer to as the Zeppoverse. Because it's like there's a minimum of 6 book series, each of which is a 3-part book. All right, so like 0 Hour, parts 1, 2, and 3. Forgiving Bobby McGee, parts 1, 2, and 3. What's the other one called? What's some of the other highlights? The Many Adventures of Johnny Apple Wedsed, which is a intentional mispronunciation, because secretly his name is Weed Seed. Get it? It's a pun. Well, not a pun. It's a gimmick. Anyways, each of those books, if you were to go to my Wattpad profile, as I humbly invite any viewers checking this out, you'll find multiple book series with their own cover and title and description and sample chapters. Please know that each of those fledgling example chapters or books, that each cover represents a trilogy, a 3-part series. And it's all trapped in my head. And because of the whatever weirdness in me as I was born, like I was born like this. I've had this impulse since before I got to my drama department at university, right? Like, I was a very bullish and overbearing older brother to my first sibling because I just assumed that he was my sidekick and collaborator. Like, he and I, in another universe, might be another, insert our own real life names, brothers, writer, producer, director types. Like, all the names of all the brothers that I think of in film are now blank. Is the Russo brothers a name? The Coen brothers. Let's take the Coen brothers. That's that one. Makes a little more culturally accessible reference. I forget who the Russo brothers are, though. They're up there. Are the Russo brothers the team that does Marvel movies? At any rate, that was the ambition back when we were little kids, but I had no ego check, and I was essentially a little mini tyrant bully. And needless to say, my brother and I do not collaborate directly on very much, and that's all my fault. But that was millennia ago, and now here we are. What are we talking about? I'm on the camera. Let's go to Infinity Desktop Portal and jump on through. So, all of these conversations here that you see, I don't know if you can see them. Let me mute my face because I think my face is blocking them. Let's mute that over here on Twitch side. TikTok, I don't think I'm blocking myself. But if you look on the left-hand menu side of this thing. Another thing I could have done is just shrunk it in. But anyways, all of these chats, which go back quite a bit, are somehow directly or indirectly related to the settings, the ideas, the mythologies, the backstories, the world building elements that I think are important and should be incorporated in the things that I'm going to create. And the goal of this project is to give myself an avenue to try to commodify my struggle with writer's block and my attempt to solve the issue of not having any collaborators vis-a-vis this, I guess, potentially controversial, because many people really hate AI as a entire market or genre or whatever. A lot of people really don't want to support, quote, AI artists. In my defense, I'm not one of those. I'm using AI as a surrogate for the human collaborator. That means I actually have a collaborative process whereby and or through which, whichever is more grammatically correct, I'm not just tasking it to make the thing for me. I'm asking it for feedback on ideas I've come up with. I'm asking it to give me weird material that I might not have come up with based on my own original intellectual property, patent pending, and all rights reserved, so that I can then go, oh, that was interesting. Yes, no, yes, maybe, this needs changing, and then take it and apply my secret patent pending, someday I'll write a book about this process, and then give it back something that is dramatically different that I would never have been able to come up with entirely by myself, and that it would never have come up with by itself. Now, imagine all that with a person. Imagine all that not just with a person, but with a group of people. In a perfect world, in an alternate universe somewhere where I was born into generational wealth, I would have launched a multi-market, multimedia, multi-genre, whatever you want to call it, production studio company, and I would have hired the best of the best, in my estimation, of the kinds of people I want to work with. And instead of me trying to commodify my own sad, pathetic attempts at doing this on my own, we would already be an industry-leading studio up there competing with Marvel and DC and Disney and anybody else. I am deeply influenced by comic books, even though I didn't ever collect or read them. I admired them from afar as art that I felt I would never be able to approach. Because no matter how hard I've tried my entire life, I cannot draw. I can't stand my own line, as it were. The line being a metaphorical idea for like the overall aesthetic quality of a person's or an artist's design aesthetic, right? Other people tell me that I draw pretty decent or sketch pretty. I can't paint at all. Well, that's not true. I have 2 paintings that I made as a child under the direction of my father, who's a pretty decently accomplished amateur painter. I'm sad he never went pro with it, but that's a whole nother story. Anyways, here we are. I'm sort of floundering because I don't know where to start exactly. Except for this. Is anybody watching live now that did not see the weird opening preamble thing that I did a hot second ago and cut off? I was having technical issues. And also, I kind of always wanted a singular just that. So I can like trim it down, tighten it up, and edit it to a perfect pre-roll that I can just play at the top of every show. That's about the Zeppoverse world building. There is a chunk of the core central idea that drives all the disparate and seemingly disjointed and disconnected storylines in all my book series. And it's sort of like I'm giving away the big reveal up front because I don't know how long it's going to take me to get around to actually producing a finished book, let alone completing the entire book series. And it's the mystery at the center of the book series isn't really a mystery. It's more of like a metaphor for like the worst case possible thing that humanity could ever do to itself and the universe. So if you missed it, it's now highlighted on my Twitch profile. It's the most recent highlight. It's also the most recent previous episode on the video on demand shelf. That'll only be there for 7 days, but the highlight should be there forever. For those of you who are watching this in the not too distant future on my YouTube archive, I should have already exported it. You should be able to see it. It has a similar title to this one, except it says intro. For those of you watching on TikTok, because I made it short enough, it should be my newest post on the regular, not live, part of my profile, underneath the row of 3 pinned videos. So if you're like, what is he talking about? Take a moment and go check that out, either on a break or when you get tired of listening to me here and you want to move on. Please at least go check that video out on either of those platforms. On the YouTube archive, if you're watching on YouTube, on the Twitch profile, if you're watching on Twitch, it's on the video on demand or in the highlights section, and on TikTok. Did I already say TikTok? It should be the newest post. Also, I will also be posting this on one of the Facebook profiles, and eventually I'll probably post it on my primary Facebook profile. Supporting of that clip so that other people see it is deeply appreciated, because it's sort of like my pitch. It's like the core pitch. Here's what's happening. Do you want to find out more? Support my live stream experimental book development project known as ZWP WWW, or the Zeppoverse World Building Project Writing Workshop Wednesdays. Okay, what do we actually do? We already thanked J Turntable for dropping in. I don't know if we lost them, but if you're still here, thank you so much. We need to check in with ChatGPT, but we're going to move this over here. Let's do a quick, where are my glasses? Whoa. Let's do a quick TikTok roll call to see if any new viewers have dropped in. Mamma Mia, David B, Mario Camacho, Joke Father, thanks for dropping by and visiting. Why did people swing by and then not say hello? Drop a hello, drop an emoji, so that I don't have to accidentally butcher or completely miss your name on this little itty bitty one-line scroller of names. There's a blurb. Where's my blurb about that? I have a blurb. Okay. Don't I have a thing? Dear drivers, please be patient with me. I can only check your... Oh, here we go. Yeah. Copy this. I actually kind of want to make this... I was looking for this the other day. Oh, it doesn't even fit as a two thing. There's a boop. And then, okay, so in TikTok, that needs to be two different posts. Because it just doesn't fit. We're adjusting this blurb. I want to make this a thing, but it would be just a big giant block of text on the TikTok page. On the TikTok screen for the output of the stream. Anyways, TikTok roll call. Oh yeah, I already said the emoji part. Which part didn't fit? It's really tiny chat. Okay. So forgive me for always looking like a Roman, like the face on a Roman coin, but my screen is way up here for handling all that. Oh my god, nothing fits in this chat bit. Okay, I don't know if people will see that chat there later. But now I've got this highlighted. I have so many little weird blurbs of things. Okay, this can go away. Boop. So there you go, friends. On TikTok, that's the only way I can do it because I stream to TikTok Live using Streamlabs. And Streamlabs doesn't have chat integration, probably because of an agreement with Twitch, which they have a pre-existing older deal with. And Twitch doesn't like it when you promote other platforms or try to drive viewers to other platforms. Dear Twitch viewers, I am not trying to drive you to other platforms. I'm just addressing the viewers on each platform and where they can find my content. I am, as I think we are allowed, humbly inviting you to go to solo.to/Mr. Zeppo to support this project of way too many projects by checking out all the different links. And the more you go visit, the more eyeballs you put on them, the more comments you leave, whether they're supportive, whether you're confused and don't get what's going on, or whether you just want to troll and insult me, the more engagement, the more new viewers will find my content. And this is a serious attempt to actually commodify my own creative activities so that I can provide for myself and survive the impending apocalypse. I'm not kidding when I say that. I mean, it's also part of the book series. I play on this live stream and in my podcast, despite the fact that I am definitely asserting my real life humble opinion about the world and the actual events therein. I'm also couching it in the imaginary cosplay of pretending to be my own original, all rights reserved, literary fictional character known as the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, who is, for those who do not know, Mr. Zeppo is ooh, wow. Something's up with the internet. We're down to 3K. That's 300 kilobytes per second. What the F, internet? Come on, Streamlabs. Do your job. My character... Let's get back over here. My character, the incorrigible... Let me just start over again because I cut myself off. My character, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, is a living, non-carbon-based, nanobot technology, artificial being from a parallax dimension where things are wild and wacky. Now, Mr. Zeppo, in the context of how I'm playing it in terms of the quote cosplay of these live streams and my podcast and everything else, is that Mr. Zeppo is from that other dimension where artificial living robotnik beings of various kinds, there's multiple species of robots, each of them, a different kind of technological organism. My character, because of the controversy, which, spoiler alert, I'm not going to get into here, that he was sort of sucker punched into, has been relegated, what's the word? Exiled and imprisoned here on planet Zerth, which is the Zeppoverse parallel universe equivalent to planet Earth. Now, in reality, we are here on planet Earth. I understand that. I'm not an insane person. The artist that is engaging in performance art is using the real world to describe and react to an imaginary fictional world where everything is inspired from this world, but ever so slightly crazier and worse. And the nugget or the example, the brief reading from my book series that was the most recent mini broadcast that I just broadcasted is the very center, the very gooey, complex, bizarro center of it all, because it is the actual setting of any and all stories that are part of the Zeppoverse book series. No matter what the settings look like or are described as in those books, they are actually happening in the place that I've just identified in that previous bit. So let's get started. This is one of the facets of this is that I think a lot of people who support streamers but don't do content creation, I think a lot of people out there do not realize how much effing crazy back end, behind the scenes busy work is involved, right? In order to put out one cute reel or short magic movie loop, as I like to call them, for the purposes of not accidentally triggering the magic movie loop maker that reviews my videos. Maybe reviewing it now because I think I set it to auto detect and to auto process. Who knows? We'll check in on that in a minute. One of the facets is a behind the scenes look at the admittedly tedious busy work that is the machinery of making content, right? Like, for example, before going live, I created and posted what looks like a really simple little meme turned into Magic Movie Loop. It's available on FB, on IG, and on TT, which is the new acronym I'm using for TikTok. And it looks like, it looks like something you could slap together in 3 seconds. And the initial idea didn't take that long to organize, but from initial idea to absolute final draft of I actually double proofread it. I made sure that I caught the spelling error I didn't see the first time, and then caught the second spelling error that I didn't see the second time, and then testing it against how it would look on the platforms, refining that took over an hour and a half. Because shit just takes time, yo. Anyways, that's one of the things we that I am interested in delving in to see if it appeals to anybody. Let's go take a look at that. Let's look at it. Let me find it. Hold on. Where are we? Oh, good. We're back to much better internet situations. Jackson Knowles, thank you for dropping by. And shout out to anybody else that's been hanging about. Oh, you know what we want to do? That's what we're going to do. Real quick. We're going to go back to this. Back to... Whenever I say back to, deep in the forgotten memory hole of my brain, that song from the late or mid 90s, maybe, or late 80s. Back to life, back to reality, dun, dun, dun. And then that dance breakdown, that is permanently seared in my brain. Whenever I hear or say the phrase back to anything, it plays in there. I'm one of those people. But for the life of me, no idea what the name of that song is, what band or artist, what year it came out. I couldn't, if I tried to find it, I'd have to sing it at someone until someone goes, I know what that is. So pin on the corkboard, if anybody watching, even if it's in the future, if you know what that is, please, oh please, let me know. It goes, back to life, back to reality, back to the something, something. And it's a woman singing, I think. It sounds like a woman. Anyways, yeah. Clip that, Eclipse. Let's see if we get an answer to that question. What are we doing? What am I doing? I am looking for... Hold on. Oh, right. We're going to go over here to the iPad page. Boom. DJ Zed, are you still playing? Good. iPad Pro, you don't have any music to play right now, but why is your volume so weird? Okay. I might also do some almost daily login stuff during this episode, even though it's primarily about developing ideas and commodifying the act of trying to write a book series as a live stream show. We might also log into a few video games in passing, casually. Now, what were we doing? I was going to do something on... yes. Hold on. Let me find it first, so I don't have to broadcast the weird bits, any unexpected content. Let's open up the TT app. What's up, TT? Yo! What's up, gaming friend? I have lots of Call of Duty friends on there that are way better than me. Aha! Okay. Alright. So forgive me, Twitch. I am featuring my TikTok profile. I'm not trying to drive viewers from Twitch to TikTok. I'm sharing my TikTok content on Twitch, which I think is allowed. I have not downloaded this yet, but I might do that right here. This is the video I made a hot second ago. It's a little long. It needs a little tightening up, especially because at the beginning, things dragged on because I should have edited this in the TikTok thing first. But I was caught off guard because it didn't recognize me in chat. I had to log back in, And then it does this weird thing where like you try to log in and it's like, are you trying to sign up for a new account? I'm like, no, you piece of garbage. I'm trying to log in. So I had to like do it 3 times. At any rate, the fun, interesting bit is when it starts talking. There's some music. There we go. And then we start. I think I need to trim it down to where the music starts, I guess. I don't know. Some people may have the patience for this, but some people may not. So look how long that sits there for. And then finally, I was like, oh, wait, wow. I was looking for a screen where it would look best. And I was also sort of just doing I didn't expect to be disconnect in order to fix a technical issue, which is why we are technically in a different stream now than this. But it worked out because now, hold on. DJ said stop because there's music on this clip. Here we go. So I made it go blank so that I can do that. Is it playing? It's probably not playing right now, is it? Hold on, let me check. Everything is tangled up with everything else. I often resort to this. Who remembers the show called Pimp My Ride? Now, forgive the gratuitous use of that term. But I want to pimp my content, my at-home content making studio show. So if there's a reality TV show out there that's like looking for a new thing, hire me. It would be dope because there's so many people doing live streaming and there's so many people doing content creation that you could do a whole thing where it's like, oh, does your studio suck? Do you not have all the right equipment? Do you have a halfway decent like setup, but you want something even better? Come check this out. And like, we visit, we remodel, we install like top of the line gear. We got partnerships with the best, graphics cards or whatever. Just like Pimp My Ride, but it's about charitably donating stuff to people like me who are like, I have a pretty decent setup, but it's still the technology is still on the edge of like, I could be rocking this so much more. This could be streaming so much higher def and faster and slicker and better and whatever. Anyways, what are we looking at? We're looking at this video that I just made. Part of it is the standard intro to the show, but the other part is, hold on, I just realized we have to click this button. Brace yourselves, the iPad audio is about to activate.
COD anniversary.
There we go.
This episode,
Let's turn that up a bit.
Is about to begin. Please, for the love of all things sane, affix and or adjust your own device interface to human sensory inputs and adjust volume levels to safety protocol standards on your own.
Anyways,
insert Robo audience applause and laughter track here. Thank you for watching. Activation transcript. Welcome to the madness. Dear audience, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, and good day to you, dear audience. Welcome in the not too distant future. Welcome to the Zeppoverse. Some of you may be asking yourselves, what is the Zeppoverse? Visit the many dimensions of the Zeppoverse at this link collection page. https://solo.to/mrzeppo. Insert Robo audience applause and laughter track here. Welcome, dear audiences from around the world. CTAG Studios proudly presents the Almost Daily Variety Live Stream Show Extravaganza, a special presentation of the Almost Daily Variety Chaos Content Creation Zeppoverse project of 2 many projects, hosted by the...
Anyways, go check that out. And if you want to fast forward past all the redundant introductory stuff, you're more than welcome to, and get to the meaty part. I will probably do a trimmed down version of this and cut it right at or just before the part where we interrupt the standard intro of the show and feature the story nugget. But I guess I didn't want to be bothered with it at this time. Are we even there yet? No. Like the whole first half of that isn't even. There we go.
The final capabilities of their most technologically advanced technology, in the human Earth year of 2169, intended as an emergency life raft for ensuring the long-term survival of the species at an intergalactic scale. The Armada was an...
There was another thing I wanted to do. I was thinking about this is content creation time, content sharing time. What are we going to... There's nothing worse than when my brain just... an idea that I had. Okay. Let's back up. So, you may or may not have seen that clip. You may or may not have understood or absorbed what is described there. We'll look at it in a minute. We might even have it get read again by my robot reader voice later on. But put a pin on the corkboard there. I almost remembered. Oh, yeah. We're going to indulge in a little bit of the almost daily login exercise. But I'm going to do it with a little bit of like a conceptual overlay. Imagine, if you will, a world in which the games that I feature, for example, Mech Arena. Imagine a world in which that game is not a video game, but an actual, real-world, professional entertainment sports marketplace, right? Imagine that as we log into, for a hot second, Mech Arena to do the almost daily login widgets and just log things out. Now, why do I say that? Let me adjust some volume settings. Oh man, I need to replace 2 headsets. Somebody want to donate $100? Because I need to replace the headset that I monitor and the headset that I use on my Xbox. And to get good ones, that's like $50-$60 each. Anybody want to donate $120 so I can get 2 cool headsets? Oh, that's DJ's head. I'm like, what the is going on? Okay. I'm going to take this off because it's just distracting to not be able to hear the monitor correctly. Here we are. Adjust the camera, the microphone there. Get the keyboard out of the way because we don't need it. I love this game. This game is actually one of the things that got me started on live streaming because I was like getting a little bit obsessed and fixated in the game, and I had heard of live streaming, but also like I didn't get it. And then people around me were like, you should get into live streaming. You're interesting, you're weird, you know how to improvise, you can be funny, you're weird. Look, what is that? New video alert. Event Crate Rush. Okay, they apparently have a TikTok profile. I've not seen them in TikTok. Okay. Let's click on all the clicky things. But what was the point of me saying that? Imagine a world in which this isn't just a video game on your iPad or on your cell phone, but an entire real-life employment marketplace. Right? That changes the way you think of it, doesn't it? Where every day, now people will say, oh, you're just ripping off Black Mirror. No, I had these ideas before Black Mirror ever existed. They just beat me to the punch of presenting very similar ideas in their really awesome science fiction show, which, by the way, I haven't finished watching it. I know there's I think I'm 1 season from completion. Cool, okay. I have not lost the 14-day thing. We can still keep grinding this. What is this? Oh no, these are, I don't have any of those. Where do we get those coins? Is any coin? What is this? Event tokens. I can buy $100 worth of event tokens. But where do I earn them? their arena playoff event 1 week and 2 days. Might earn some things in that. We're probably not going to play a game, although we might. That's one of the concepts I'm working with in the book series. A world in which this isn't just entertainment, but it's like actual people have to work this as a job. And it isn't just like there's layers of like reveals. I just want to clear out the. Come on. Kind of like if we put it's sort of like how I'm live streaming games, and I want that to be popular enough that it is commodifiable and generates some amount of income so that I can sustain myself by being a work from home content creator and creative. So far, by the way, for the record, this entire process has only cost me money. Yes, I've received some payouts from my podcast and from my activities on social media, but those payouts have been ridiculously small. I saw a meme recently that like made me laugh out loud, but also felt like a stab right through all the important vital organs. It was captioned, "Just got my first social media payout," or something to that effect. Might have been Facebook, but let's just say it was social media. "And I'm dining like a king." And under the caption was a photo of hot dog buns with, I think, ice cubes in them. Like not food, not like actual food. Am I gonna play a game? The sound is so horrible on these headsets. Would it work if I swapped down? No, I'd have to reassign it. It would just be a whole headache if I put my Xbox headsets on the iMac. It works, but it also doesn't work for some reason. I've tried that before, and I said, nope, undo all of that. All right, let's not. We're just going to log in and do the login for the characters. Bare minimum. We'll come back probably and do some actual gaming from this and all the other games. If not today, then throughout the course of the rest of this weekend. Come on, click on it. I'm a sucker for things that have daily login mechanisms. Like we have to go log into Call of Duty right now so that I don't forget. Call of Duty on the Xbox. Because they've got a cool, weird, free new thing. Come on, click on all the places. Dear Mech Arena, tone it down with the fucking pop-up advertisements. Like it's a wee bit much. You don't need them popping up like that. Please and thank you. That means I need to actually read the Windows pages to see what it says. Alright, click on that one. Come here. So this is tedious and boring, and some people be like, "This, what is he doing? What does this have to do with anything?" I mean, it technically doesn't, except for the fact that I'm just commodifying my time. You're here watching me do something silly and chatting. And of course, this is much more interesting if people watching, especially over there on the TikTok, you actually engage with the chat, my friends. Because every time you don't, the more there's chat engagement, the more I can actually utilize and engage my theatrically entertaining improvisation skills. I mean, I can improvise by myself too, but also I totally trashing my voice. I forgot to make tea. And I did not warm up. I brag about being a professional, and then I'm also a terrible professional. Okay. This was just the logins. But imagine a world where every day your grind is to log in to a game like this. Except it's not really a game. It's a real world conflict resolution / entertainment mechanic, or industry, or marketplace, or whatever the most appropriate terminology would be there. Oh, that's pretty. I still like the purple one that I've got. What is? Oh yeah, this purple character. On tier X. I don't even know what that means. What is tier X? And what is 9*9? What? Tier X of what? The playoff event, I guess? I don't know. Do we already click on all the clicky things here? No, there's gotta be more clicky things. We gotta click through this. That was cool in purple. Wasn't it? This game does lean on the purple color. A lot of purple color happening all over the place lately. This bit. Oh, tedium. There's a bunch of, or at least I've noticed that several of the copycat games that are adjacent to this specific game are promoting on social media. I thought they were all defunct. So Mondays, we're going to bring Mech Mania Madness back. M4, Mech Mania Madness Mondays. Those are the only 2 days of the week that I have... Oh no, we got First Impression Fridays. So Mech Mania Madness Mondays. Zeppoverse World Building Project Workshop Writing Wednesdays. And First Impression Fridays are like my themes for the week. Even though I don't do a very good job at... Oh, are those like nerf and buff moderate? Is that what that is? That's what this is. I thought this was like a place where you bought stuff. And I didn't understand it. Now I get it. I just also never bothered to actually read it very closely. I don't know if that was particularly engaging or not engaging or completely pointless or boring, but as far as each of these games that have a daily login mechanic, I'm obsessed with trying to break my own mostly pathetic records of sticking with the almost daily login ritual and logging in every single day to all of these. There's a bunch on the iPad. I could just do Call of Duty login right now. Because we're here. Let's bust it out. DJ Zed, could you pause out for a second? Well, we'll give it a second. Also, Fortnite is now on my iPad? What? We're going to log into both this Fortnite and the Fortnite on the Xbox to see how they compare and contrast. I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, wait, there's probably no Xbox. No, there it is. Pause out, DJ Zed, because you're just clashing with the music. What was that? Oh, yeah, I never used it. The push notifications. New season is coming. No, I don't like push notifications. All these money grab systems are a little overwhelming. I'd really love for there to be just like true free-to-play gaming. I always get invited to a match. Okay, we're going to play one match because I try not to be rude to my friends in this game. Here we go. But meanwhile, as I play this, even though I cannot hear a fucking thing, oh, that's because I did actually load it on. Imagine a world where you had to do this as a living, like for a job, and then how would that play out as science fiction? Here we go. Let's play a match.
Frontline.
And then we'll bounce out and we'll log into Call of Duty Black Ops 6 because they've got a daily login thing happening right now. Let's pay attention though.
Enemy down. Sniper.
That's right, friends. This is one of my favorite maps on mobile. I don't know why. And I think we're getting this map. I think we are going to get this map in Black Ops 7.
Hunter-killer drone on standby. Friendly hunter-killer drone deployed.
Okay, the audio is terrible.
Enemy down.
But I think it sounds fine for you guys. It's just my freaking... Who runs a sniper on this map, dude? This map is tiny as fuck.
Predator missile on standby.
Woo! This is a fun deck.
Target down. Tango down.
Did you get him? Did you get him? Okay. We're going to tuck in over here.
Sentry gun ready to deploy.
Okay. I had to get in my way.
Sentry gun deployed.
Okay, we gotta hide somewhere so we can launch this thing.
Keep on them. We're winning this one.
Reload through.
It sounds so weird in my headset.
Predator missile inbound.
Kaboom!
Tango down.
Oh, you can't. I wonder. You could get on top of that.
Sniper.
Boom!
Target to threat.
There is a very cynical.
Been destroyed. Objective almost complete. Keep it up.
Forgot we switched sides. Here we go. Oh, let's go in. This is a thing I won. They released this to people who played. The gun it in. Gun. Oh, they got behind me.
We've taken the lead.
Enemy down.
That thing where you can see your own teammates, that's something they should do in Black Ops. Oh.
Sniper.
Ah, darn it. Of course they got me.
Tango down.
We've taken the lead.
Target down.
Here we go. It's my favorite part. Ready? Ready for it?
Heads up. Enemy UAV spotted.
Here, you.
Enemy down.
Predator missile awaiting orders. Sentry gun ready for deployment. We've taken the lead.
Yeehaw!
Tango down.
Haha. Oh, brutal. They got me. Ouch. Got me in my headset. Okay. Wouldn't this be kind of an awesome way to solve world problems
Friendly
instead
hunter-killer
of
drone
actual
deployed.
real-life kinetic
Enemy
conflict?
down.
became the homeowner. I didn't even drop my other things. Victory is mine.
Sniper them.
Clip that MVP moment, Eclipse. Please and thank you. Alright, let's back on out. Oh, we gotta give everybody a blue thumbs. Everybody gets a blue thumbs for me.
Mission accomplished. Good work.
Especially, I mean, I always give a blue thumbs up to everybody. Great. Okay. Let's back on out. And I know this may or may not make sense to some people. Nope, sorry, polar bear. I gotta go. But I'm actually popular enough in Call of Duty Mobile that I get a lot of, like, invites. Sometimes I can't even click through. We'll start this for the next one. Well, that went really fast. Sometimes that takes like 8 years. Bye-bye. Okay. How do I connect the dots? In my book series, it's an original sci-fi action-adventure setting, but nested inside of it, I think you might, arguably it'd be very reasonable to say as a tip of the hat or an homage or a thank you, a literary cinematic cross-media reference to Ready Player One. Now, some people have never seen that. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Duh. That's what always happens. But Ready Player One was one of those like, oh, that's so awesome. I'm so jealous, but I'm so happy for them, but I'm kind of hurt. Because they literally laid out a whole series of ideas that were not exactly the same, but up a very similar alley. Enough that I was like, oh. Because now, if I ever do finish something, I know that somewhere in there, in the trolls and criticism, people will be like, you're just ripping off from this, this, and this. But isn't that the truth of all great art? Borrow and steal and give credit to. There is a technique, an often forgotten about technique called pastiche, wherein you literally reference the material inside of your own material as if it existed in the universe that you're creating, which is the way in which I'm going to use it. Let's talk about the actual setting of the Zeppoverse book series and the world that we're trying to create in real quick. As if you caught the opening intro loop thing that I made before this particular episode, the human species has created the penultimate gaming and life simulation platform, which is there's going to be somewhere when we in talking about that a sequence that will be a direct cinematic reference, homage, and like tribute to the RoboCop remake with what's his name, the guy from Suicide Squad. I don't remember his name, but I can see his face right now. But if you're familiar with that, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's the single scene in the new RoboCop movie that is the one thing that was like, mwah, chef's kiss perfection, missing from the original RoboCop movie. Unless I don't remember it, and it's there, and I forgot. But for those of you who don't know, if you like sci-fi and robots, how have you not seen either the original series or the remake? But in the remake, the guy, the character, the main character, right? If you don't know the story of RoboCop, pardon the spoilers, but I believe he was always a police officer, right? A police officer is gravely injured, and to save his life And as an excuse to experiment with their technology, they harvest his brain and certain other body parts necessary to keep him alive and shove him into a prototype police robot machine to make it a cyborg. And the new one does a really interesting job of like creating a social division in the world where like some people are down with robots but not down with cyborgs, and vice versa. Some people think cyborgs are superior to robots because there's a real person involved. But anyways, it's an interesting question, and it's not a major theme, but it's definitely there. But there's a moment when that character, and I forget exactly how far along inside the movie, but spoiler alert, I'm going to graphically describe something that happens in this movie. He demands of his doctors to be taken out of the robot, to be shown how much of his original body is left. And in his really intense body horror special effects sequence, he's there in his RoboCop thing. They like put him on his charging stand. He's like hooked up to something, so he has no control. He can't like do anything. And then they disassemble the robot. And all that is left is his head, his esophagus and digestive tract, his lungs, and his spinal cord, right? And one or two other essential, like his liver or something. But it's like this thing where they take off his legs, they take off the pelvis, they take off his arms, and then they start disassembling the core of his body, and all that's left is his brain in a jar, his face, and like this much of him, of his innards. And he's just sitting there suspended by whatever the mechanism that's holding him in place so they could disassemble him. And it's grotesque. And anybody who has like body phobia things, or any kind of like squeamishness about body horror, that might be truly disgusting. But it's brilliant. And it's what drives him to decide to stay with it. Right? Like he sees that and he freaks out. Anyways, in my book series, the baseline reality of the real world is millennias into the future, multiple centuries into the future, after the entire human species has willingly chosen, in order to survive their own planetary apocalypse that they and their own industries and their own choices and their own politics have caused, they decide to do something effective, but even more, they just, as it says in, how did I phrase it in the bit that I wrote? I phrase it as, Where is it? Aha! Here we go. Let me have my robot voice read this for us right here.
The mission: to travel to habitable worlds for the purposes of reconstitution and colonization. Upon first embarking on the journey, every living member of the human species was medically dissected alive and assimilated into the working infrastructure of the ship and entombed in complex life support systems designed for preserving only the living brain and nervous system tissue, in what was essentially a brain-shaped jar.
I like the weird way that the robot reader pronounces jar. But anyway, so that's like an open secret. Whoa, wow, the internet is all over the place today. Dear internet gods, could you please effing stabilize my connection to the world so that people can watch my shit and give me money? Please and thank you, amen. Good grief. Owner, Sylvia, Agent, Main, Ahmed Zamir Sabiri. Sorry. Those names scroll by so fast I often can only read like the first name, especially if the second or third parts are oddly hard to pronounce. Okay, but please forgive me. I mean no offense. So in the Zeppoverse, the humanity species, and I try to shove Zeds in everywhere to sort of like, this is the world that is the Zeppoverse world, which is a secret to the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. The incorrigible Mr. Zeppo does not know that he is in a universe that is known as the Zeppoverse. Okay? So that's the thing. Put that pin up on the corkboard. Eclipse, please clip that. And thank you. The reason it's called the Zeppoverse is unbeknownst, I think. I should have made tea. My throat is all drying up and now I'm just trashing my own voice. Professional theater practitioner, horrible at the fundamentals of like warming up before rambling for several hours. The character known as the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo is a complicated individual made up of many individuals. But that's a whole nother thing. Put a pin on the corkboard. He has been, what's the word? Exiled into what is essentially a prison dummy universe egg. For reasons that we'll get into. That's another pin on the corkboard. He, having had his memory redacted, is unaware of stuff like that. He remembers things from his original life as a living, cybernetic, nanotechnology, multifaceted, complex, robotnik being of the superior social elite variety, and he had a very important job, but doesn't quite remember what it was. He had very high status, but he doesn't quite remember why. And he has been stranded on planet Zerth, which is just Earth with a Z in front of it, observing the ambulatory meat sacks of blood and bone that call themselves the humanity species. That's humans, but with a Z, so that it forces the E to sound funny, because I want it to be evocative of the word chimpanzee, because we're just ambulatory chimps. We're just talking violent chimps with toys and tools. But I digress. He doesn't quite remember why or how he got stranded here, but he does have a working theory about what the F he's supposed to do, about which he's completely wrong. But he doesn't know that. In the central or primary or anchor book series, the book series I'm probably going to try to get through first, known as 0 Hour, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo is framed as a bad guy by human authorities. They don't even know his name. They don't even know who he is. But his activities, when they are noticed by the authorities, because he does live sort of incognito. He's been walking amongst the humanity species on Zerth ad nauseum since like the mists of time began. Since whenever the I haven't quite decided when to like plant him there. Whether he should have been there from the like conception of the universe, which would be hard. Like, what would he have been doing for those bazillion years? But at some point, he finds himself on planet Zerth, feeling a bit stranded and very invisible, because he's designed to blend in and observe without being noticed. He, in his sort of hazy, redacted, incomplete memory, he has some sense of a, what do they call it in Star Trek? The Prime Directive. He has some sense of like, I'm supposed to be here observing and cataloging and analyzing the decisions and behaviors and interactions of these primitive ambulatory talking chimpanzees. And he's been doing that diligently throughout all of human history. But as we get into the postmodern era, in which I will be using real life as a blueprint, but also sort of retconning it, so it's a little bit more future forward. One might say that it's a little bit of the Fantastic Four treatment. How in the Fantastic Four Marvel movie, we're seeing a sci-fi, not quite steampunk, but definitely futuristic past. I don't remember if we've gotten an answer as to whether or not that is the same timeline as the primary timeline of whatever the effing number they attribute to Earth in that whole thing. I love Marvel, but I'm a big picture nerd, not a drill down and memorize tiny details nerd. So in nerdgasms speak, I often don't sound like I know what I'm talking about because I don't have like the date and the name but I know stuff. I'm analyzing it at a big picture. All the things that I am a nerd about. And I'm definitely, in my humble opinion, a Marvel Cinematic Universe nerd. Okay, but anyways, so in that sort of style, but original to my own design and thinking, and you gotta admit, it is undeniable. We wouldn't have the kinds of design aesthetic choices that make sense and are approachable, almost nostalgic, in the Fantastic Four movie. Pin on the corkboard, I am way overdue for doing a Mr. Zeppo's Totally Irrelevant Media Review episode about that and just about every other MCU movie in the catalog. And it's one of those things that's sitting on a back burner. We're going to get around to catching up on it. So stay tuned. But we wouldn't have that design aesthetic language as readily available and as acceptable and as recognizable without the Jetsons, in my humble opinion. So, in my own way, inspired by and deeply influenced by the Jetsons, as I was a fan in my youth, I don't think I'd watch it again, especially after having been exposed to the age analysis of the family units, because then it makes even less sense and it's creepy and wrong. But if we ignore that part, someone out there did a video and it forever sort of altered me on the Jetsons, because I used to just be yay, I'm so glad the Jetsons existed. Now I'm like, why did it have to have that cringy thing baked into it? But I guess, it's obviously from a different era. And age gaps were considered way more normal. I mean, not to get into a discussion about age gaps. Blah, blah, blah. What are we doing? Peachy Girl, thank you for dropping by over there on the TikTok page. You're quite welcome. We're discussing... Oh my God, what is wrong with the internet? I'm down at 253 kilobytes per second. What the F is going on today? Anyways, where are we going? Where was I? Let's get back over here. So in my book series, there's 2 worlds. This gets confusing, even to me. And I'm the person with all of this imagery stuck in my head. There's the really real, actual, real world metaphysical history of Zerth, which is to be considered very similar and very equivalent to the real world history of the actual planet Earth, which you should be familiar with, dear audiences. And if you're not, go get a history book. Go to your local library, please. Because there are dangerous echoes of history rampaging about right now. We'll put a pin on the corkboard about that. So Mr. Zeppo believes himself to be living through... I'm debating as to whether or not he will have had actually lived through the real physical history of Zerth or not. It's supposed to be a bit of a, wait, what's going on? Mystery. In part because in my own brain, when I think about it, my brain goes, wait, what's going on? This is a bit of a mystery. Clip that, Eclipse. But I digress. Objectively speaking, as far as the setting of the Zeppoverse book series of many book series is concerned, there was a physical reality in which there was a galaxy just like your own, in which one could find a planet almost identical to yours, on which evolved living, carbon-based, blood and bone, gooey life forms, and from that arose a species of ambulatory talking meat sacks almost identical to your own human species, but with heightened fantasy, fiction, sci-fi elements sprinkled throughout, like going to retcon things so that like certain technologies were invented way earlier than they were here on the actual real life planet Earth. And then there is in the, what would be to you, dear viewers, in the not too distant future from now being what, 2025? If my calculations are correct, you are watching you should be, if you're watching this, you should be watching it live or in the not too distant future in the final quarter of 2025. I could be wrong. I'm broadcasting from another dimension entirely, so forgive me if I've got you incorrect. But I haven't decided exactly how many years. There's sample numbers, but almost every time I ever write down a future date, I've been inconsistently all over the place about it. Sometimes I write it as if this all is happening exactly 100 years in the future, or at least the part where everything starts off, or 1,000 years in the future. I don't know how I feel about it happening further out than that. But somewhere in that framework, so that we can have the reason I'm setting it up that way is because it should probably be the century, right? We're about to hit, it's 2025. We're 5. This is really hard for me to say as an actual human being. We are living through the 20s. And I grew up with a weird made-up nostalgia for the roaring 20s of the 1900s. But then again, I grew up in the late 1900s, right? And I've always was a bit of a like, wow, isn't it amazing how much has changed, what we've developed, what has happened between, let's say, 1925 and 2025, right? It's crazy. So it's really weird to me that we're about to hit the 30s and we seem to be repeating some of the worst socio-political economic mistakes of that historical chapter in this country and in the world. But here we go. At any rate, so yeah, I think I might just set it like in the next century. So the dates can all be 21, 2120, 2123, 2189, 20 echoes of our own cycle. Like I might set the real physical material exodus of the humanity species from their own dying planet Zerth in like 2199. So that I can then echo the 80s and 90s of our own real world history. I don't know. I haven't quite pinned it down yet, but having these discussions out loud helps me process that and get to decisions about it. So regardless, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo finds himself in multiple realities at once. We as an audience will encounter him or various iterations of him in all kinds of realities. In The Many Adventures of Johnny Apple Wedsaid, it's a post-dystopian sci-fi adventure Wild West, like spaghetti western inspired setting where instead of being out in space, we're trapped in a very like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome / what's another good one that would be like, it would feel like this. It would feel like a little bit of Mad Max with a little bit of I can't think of the reference that I wanted to make. There's another movie that's like on Earth, dystopian future that I would probably want to invoke. But regardless, that one's all about a character whose great-grandfather has just handed to him the keys to his secret empire because they are the Wedsaid family. This is all sort of a play on Johnny Appleseed, right? The American mythology. And I need to go back and refresh my memory and on all the details and go back and read a lot more about Johnny Appleseed and what the mythology is all really about and stuff. But Johnny Appleseed in American mythology is a character that is often attributed to planting apples across the eastern seaboard where there were no apple orchards, and creating apple orchards, and thus being a foundational folk hero that helped establish and create the agricultural prosperity of this country. I don't know. I don't remember right now off the top of my head if it's literally inspired by a real person or sort of an aggregate of mythologies of different people or what now. But I used to know. It's just not right there. But in The Many Adventures of Johnny Apple Wedsaid, Johnny, in a coming-of-age story, has this legacy thrust upon him because he was unaware. He was just minding his own business, being a young, up-and-coming. He wanted to be a blacksmith stuff. He's got friends. It's very comic booky. This has got the most anime vibe in terms of the way I describe the world and whatever. There's giant, majestic, mutant animals, some of which we discover can talk. There's a barren wasteland. Then there's the rugged, sort of arid, Western style, like people are just scraping by on subsistence. Is that what it's called? Subsistence farming. Like you can just barely get by. Oh, duh. What's the one with the Hunger Games? That's the other one. There's a splash of Hunger Games in this. But the Wedsaid family has always lived sort of 1 foot way outside the norm. And unbeknownst to Johnny Apple Wedsaid, who I think he's adopted into this family. That's a detail about my own fiction that I don't remember exactly. I may have been toying with that idea and I never nailed it down. But the last living, I might change it so that it's his grandmother. Ooh, pin on the corkboard. I got to ask myself, I got to write that down. Let's go to my notepad. Quick note. For John, I cannot spell. Is it Johnny Apple? I think maybe I put some other name in there. I gotta revisit the actual text to see what is final over on Wattpad. But I might gender swap the grandfather. Intuition says yes. Well, we're going to have to visit that in a hot second and start tweaking things. Let's go back over here. Boom. He inherits this secretive underground network of cannabis orchards, acres, discrete, isolated, remote acres of very usable soil. And the mystery there, because there's a lot of it's really hard to farm and everyone's struggling because the soil keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It's a place to also talk about, this world is a place to also talk about the Dust Bowl era and some of the issues of how we caused that. That wasn't an act of God. The Great Depression and the Dust Bowl era are often they happened overlappingly and so they're conflated, but the Dust Bowl era is specifically about how corporate farming, toxic practices in our agricultural industries destroyed the topsoil in these areas that were not quite ready to be arid farmland. They weren't they not arid, fertile farmland. They weren't the American, the colonizers came and said, we can just do whatever we want with this land, and never bothered to study the microbiomes and the ecological systems specific to each territory that they conquered. And so after the first 100 years of this very aggressive, profit-driven, and although it wasn't mechanically industrialized, you can consider it commercially industrialized farming, we stripped all the usable soil and all the nutrients out of it and we caused a collapse in ecosystems so that nothing would grow. So that's one of the things going on in that setting in The Many Adventures of Johnny Applewhite said. And he finds out upon the passing of his now gender-swapped grandmother, who used to be grandfather, not in the book, but rather in my own writing of it. Although that's a whole nother issue. We could play with that. We meet him after the discovery, although I may rework that. And he's recruited from his childhood friends. Sorry, I'm combating some hiccups and burps that are having a traffic jam in my gullet right here. He's recruited from his childhood friends that have survived the challenges, because this is not easy living. This is tough. This is not, what's that show? Home on the Prairie or whatever. This is what's that video game where you die of dysentery every 5 minutes? It's that, right? I love that video game. What's it called? I haven't played it in ages. There's supposed to be a really pretty remake of it. The one where you go over the Donner Pass and you got to survive and you almost always end up eating half your party. You know the name of the game. Insert redacted game name here. And they don't know what's actually going on, but he needs make his own little crew of farmers. He's been trained. He's been taught the fundamentals, and now his grandmother has finally like passed away, and it's all on him. And so he's recruited these group of friends, each of which will discover a lot of craziness about themselves, and they go on a long walk to visit because they're all spread out all over the place, so that they're hard to find, and they can continue to grow underground or incognito. And in this setting, cannabis isn't a recreational drug. It is a entheogenic, spiritual, ritual food. And so there's a lot to explore there. And there's, society is collapsing, and there's villains. There's land barons who think that it's the homesteaders' fault that the land isn't producing, and that they think that they can take over everyone's family-owned plots, and so there's a whole corrupt campaign to disenfranchise farming families and convert all this stuff into corporate properties, etc., etc. Okay, so pin on the corkboard about that. I don't even remember how we got onto that subject. Right. Oh, yeah. Let's go. We were originally... Oh, I was thinking about I forget. My brain is scatterbrained all over the place. Let's jump through the Infinity Desktop portal and revisit something. Okay, we'll work on that later. That's another thing. I need to take this widget and actually put it in its own file, because there might already be one, but I don't mind the redundancy. Because I need to do an actual reread and edit on it. And there's certain things that I want to break out into their own sections for where we revisit the theme and expand upon it. So this is sort of the core thing in terms of the universal setting. The big reveal that the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo doesn't know is that even his experience in the prehistory of the humanzi species, he thinks he's lived in reality, in physical reality, stranded on the physical Earth, observing the actual flesh and blood humanzis, all the way up to and through the point in which they decide to build the, what do we call it? The whatever fleet. I've given it a couple names. Armada of planet-eating space colonization meta ships. What he doesn't know is that all of that is a simulation of that history. He's not actually on the real planet Earth. And this may be something I'm deciding in real time. So let's make a clip of this, Eclipse. He wasn't on Earth. He just believes himself to have been living on planet Earth this entire time. And as he realizes, oh my God, these talking chimps want to build planet-destroying spaceships, take their brains out of their bodies and put them in jars, and then send those ships out to colonize other planets. The intention being that once they arrived and harvested enough local resources, they would then be able to 3D print and give birth to the colonizers, right? He's like, that's madness. They can't do that. I've got to figure out a way to help them to realize that that would be the worst possible thing you could do. What he doesn't know, I think I'm sort of determining now for myself live right here in real time, because I have not known the answer to this. What he doesn't know is that maybe, just maybe, it all already happened. And he was never actually there. He's just relived all of that history in the simulation. And he is one of the nanobot technology sentient micro beings that are actually physical architectural components of the ships themselves. So he's sort of an archetypical being that is one of the many nodes of consciousness in the living architecture of these ships. Because one of the things that I'm trying to figure out a way to make sure it actually works. This is one of the reasons why I need to talk about it out loud. If to no one else but myself, hopefully an audience will gather. But the books are all set at the end of time. Sort of like that restaurant in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where all of this is being viewed through the lens of people not understanding that they are brains in a jar and all their experiences are actually multiple layers of time-dilated virtual simulations. This is where I'm sure people will say, oh, you're just ripping off from The Matrix. I've had this idea since before The Matrix came out, since before The Matrix was announced. I've had this idea since Ronald Reagan was in office. It's obviously changed and evolved a lot, and I am trying my best to honor all the media influences that have been part of the aggregate collection of new ideas that have evolved, have forced me to evolve and change my core original idea. But imagine, if you will, that there is one in the entire universe, one singular, remaining, living, viable, colonizable planet. Never mind about the question of whether or not it is inhabited or not. It is the last planet that is alive and can support life. And whether or not there are people living on it, it is in its prehistoric Garden of Eden stage. If there are people on it, they have not tried to dominate it and destroy it for profit yet. If there are not people on it, there are animals and birds and things and some creature that will eventually become the primary personhood species of that planet. And mind you, for the record, I am of the humble opinion, based on my entire lifetime of observation, that all life, given the fact that it all shares the same genome at the fundamental root core of the genomes, and yet, for example, the human species and the cabbage species are roughly, I think, according to some estimates, it varies, between 69 and 75% genetically identical. One scientifically accurate, mathematically accurate map of all of life on Earth and their genomes and their relationships to each other create a circle with trees that branch, that converge inwards towards a singularity. I digress. Imagine that there is just one living planet left in the entire cosmos, mind you. In all of physical reality. And that one single planet left was, for whatever reason, overlooked. It's very remote. It's at the center of the universe. It's at the end of the universe. I don't know. It has yet to be identified and discovered and targeted by the humanity planet devouring armada of colonizing ships. But it's just about to be. That's the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's actual dilemma and calling. Although he must awaken himself from the many layers of delusion, like thinking he's actually living in the physical historical past of planet Earth. Like there's going to be stories set in eras before our own, right? And presumably those are all the actual physical real world history of planet Earth. I dropped something and I can't leave it down there because I'll forget it and then it'll just... There we go. But his real mission is to get all the human brains in jars to realize that they've been lost in a multi-tiered, multi-level, time-dilated series of illusions and simulations nested inside of each other. And that everything they think is real, like everyone has a baseline reality that they think is their reality. Johnny Applewed thinks the world he lives in is the real world, right? What's her name? My leading lady, the infamous redhead who will be in all the books. I can't believe I can't remember her name. Mac. She's got an honorific title because she's in 0 Hour. There is a like stereotypically like buxom, hot superwoman type redhead who is objectified severely. Not because I want to objectify women, but because she's going to go on a journey of liberating herself from all that objectification and standing up to the chauvinism and sexism in her world. But she lives in a very dark reality that is, my sci-fi exploration of where I think if we don't do something, we might end up. That is theoretically just a generation or two before the world is completely toast and everyone takes their brains out and puts it in a jar and sends it off into space. So she thinks she's living in the real world. And that real world is hyper augmented with science and technology and cyberisms and stuff. But she's the head of a international black ops like security task force. And she is assigned to investigate, identify, and track down this mysterious evildoer that is going to be codenamed something with a Z, or maybe with an X to be like, they're not, as an identifier that they're not right about him. I haven't decided that yet. But she then eventually... There I go dropping things. She then eventually has a whole antagonistic relationship with him where she thinks she's the hero and he's the villain. He believes himself to be an edgy anti-hero and she's the villain for trying to chase him down. And then in the midst of their clashing, they have a little bit of a romance, but it's because of her and the fact that they are like paired up in every book in different ways that they start to realize that they are trapped in all these in like this hallway of mirrors of different action adventure book series. Now in another place, in another book, this may or may not make sense, there's a whole story arc where the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo lives in a world so mundane that no one, like there's no sci-fi, there's no action adventure, there's very little to no literature, and there are no movies. There's a kind of television entertainment, but it's very difficult for me to define it because it's like absent everything we consider television entertainment. But he's in this world, and it's sort of like his own personal journey to realizing that he is living in the simulation as part of the machinery that creates the simulation. But in that adventure, he is recruiting and meeting people who are archetypes. For example, one of the earliest ones is there's a scene already up in the sample chapters. I forget which book I've shoved it in, but it's technically a scene from its own book, but it gets referenced in another book where he meets the writer and tries to recruit him. And when he meets the writer and tries to recruit him, he presents the writer with the book about the writer's life, wherein the person that we are introduced to, that is the writer, is like, what the fuck is this? Because he's never read like a sci-fi action adventure book. Even though there are objects called books, they all serve a completely different purpose. And there's no literature. So like he doesn't understand, how is there a action adventure sci-fi book series about him? But it all comes full circle to this realization that this armada of ships has landed on and devoured, like completely consumed, every viable planet and moon and celestial object that could be harvested for resources and ground it down to the nub. Like imagine a universe where everywhere you would normally see a planet, you see a small, tiny, dead, inert, formerly molten, now cold and solid planetary core, and one of these pyramids with an egg inside of it, armada ships, that has been grinding it down, consuming every molecule down to this inert core. And it's only stopped because it's got an abundance of material, and it's all these ships are malfunctioning, right? They were supposed to find viable planets, consume not one or two, consume the resources of non-viable, non-living planets or celestial bodies without like sophisticated enough life forms where it would be genocide to land and power mine, and then find planets suitable for human life, land, do one last micro round of resource harvesting, and then essentially give birth to the human species all over again as colonizers to that planet by using the stored resources to 3D print, fabricate, clone copy bodies of every brain on board. And mind you, the system provides for the ability, because people need, for living people, for real living people to find fulfillment, we need some fundamental things, right? This is a subject, pin on the corkboard, that we are literally living through a socio-political, ideological debate about. But all human beings have a few fundamental things in common. And these are verifiable, I think, in reality, but also in my book series. They are all genetically interrelated. And there's a bunch of people out there in deep, deep denial about this, but every human being that has ever lived is genetically interrelated with every other human being. The entire species is 99.9 with a million nines % genetically identical to every other human being that has ever lived or ever will live. If that does not blow your mind, then you're not actually applying critical thinking to that fact. Clip that, Eclipse. Okay, so beyond that, some of the fundamental things that I think any rational human being would agree is that most human beings want to grow up, find someone to partner with, and maybe even procreate, and build a life together and either create members of the next generation or abstain from, but carry forward and give to the next generation gifts of understanding, wisdom, or material support. This would be true even if we plucked all our brains out of our skulls, put them in cybernetic living robot ships to take us to other planets. And so to satisfy that biological imperative, in the simulations, people in at the level that they imagine, even though it's not true, to be their baseline physical reality, people meet and pair up and procreate. Some don't create progeny, but others do. Most do, or let's say enough of a majority so that the species feels it is propagating itself. They do and they will. In order to actually facilitate that and not be populating the simulation with NPC fake babies, which would eventually like break the system because everyone would know. The system biologically pairs different brains in their little jars and genetically engineers offspring baby brains in little jars. So when, theoretically, any individual colonizing pyramid with an egg inside of it, spaceship, like a living spaceship, lands on a planet that's supposed to be colonized and supposed to make sure it's got enough surplus material to give birth to all of the people in that ship, the humans that left from Earth, which were like the starting population of any particular ship so that it would be functional and operational, and their progeny. And the core malfunction that has happened system-wide, right? The entire fleet has had and I haven't decided the exact number that I'm going to use, but I want to toy with it being a number close to 420, but maybe I should pick something that's more obviously like emblematic of something bad, like a number really close to the devil's number. Even though I know the factual history about that number, it was in situ in its development when it was invented by the people in the Bible. It was code for the Roman overlord, not the imaginary bad guy in the bad place. And that's a fact. You can look it up if you don't believe me. You've been lied to your whole life about what things mean in the Bible, but that's a whole nother theme we'll get to eventually. The error code, let's just call it error code. I don't know. I like 404. I also like error code like 4. Well, the closer to 420 it gets, the more it should be a good error code. So let's go error code 665 to avoid using the actual number, or 656. There we go. No, 665 is much closer numerically. But anyways, I digress. A system-wide malfunction happens. Like something is just not working. And every ship that identifies, navigates to, lands on, and prepares to colonize, right, a planet, they get stuck in the harvesting resources mode. And they never switch over to giving birth to all the brains in the jars that are stuck in this egg so that they can step outside of the ship finally and live physically real lives on those planets. So instead of colonizing those planets, they've lived the delusional realities within realities where they think they've colonized a new planet and are living new, exciting adventures on it. But it's all a simulation. And instead, at every planet that gets landed on, and all the planetoids and other celestial bodies in between, like these things can eat suns. I've yet to decide whether or not I want them capable of eating black holes, because that would actually destroy the universe, but it's a whole other story. Black holes are imperative to the infrastructure of the actual existing universe in ways that even current science cannot comprehend, because they are directly attached to white holes. And that system is also connected to stars, but that's a whole other thing that human species is not ready for. So instead of deploying the colonizing phase, it just sat there and ate the entire planet down to a nub. That's happened to every planet, every meteor, every asteroid, everything, every moon, every celestial body large enough to be worth harvesting has been harvested until the ship can just sit on it. And there's nothing left but because it just kind of goes around and around and around and around and around and around. Now it can't do it anymore, because if it does, there will no longer be a thing for it to be sitting on. And it's every single ship in the Armada, which can replicate, by the way. At some point during the malfunction, they get to a certain point and they're like, good, although we haven't actually deployed the human beings and colonized, we think we have, and so therefore we should send a portion of the population off to another ship. Let's bifurcate and replicate ships and send them off to find another planet to colonize. So now every single planet in the existing universe, except for this one, which is yet to be discovered by the Armada, is just an inert nub with this colonizer ship on top of it. And it's sitting there in like emergency distractionary mode, like something's wrong and we're running system analytics and we're trying to figure it out, but we don't want to alert the human brains in jars yet. So we're just doubling down on distractionary measures to keep them entertained and keep them busy so that no one has the ability to wake up enough from the simulations to be like, hey, what's going on, ships? Aren't we supposed to be like getting 3D printed and bored into a real world so we can have physical lives? And what's about to happen is that Armada, there is presumably a ship in the Armada that is the last ship to bifurcate and set out looking for another planet to colonize, and is on a trajectory to eventually be able to discover that planet. For plot armor reasons, it's somehow sort of hiding in plain sight, and the ships have whizzed past it or whatever, because every other single object in the physical universe consumed. The emergency is, or should be, obvious. If that planet gets consumed, then all life in the universe is over, including human life, because there is no way. These things were not designed to terraform. These things were not designed to build. They were designed to consume resources and then give birth to people. And then disassemble themselves and reassemble themselves as the embodiments of all the cybernetic artificial robot entities that were the living infrastructure and architecture of the ships. The goal being a human and robotnik synergy where humans and robotniks live side by side on these new planets. None of that has happened, and there is only one viable living planet left. And so the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, at some point, he goes through a really long, complicated, multi-reality journey to eventually realize, oh, that's what's going on, we have to stop. We have to shut this down. We have to figure something out. What are we going to do? Because, like, if there's only one planet, there's now billions upon billions upon billions upon. We need, like, a bigger number. We need a bigger number designator. Just Googleplexes. I don't know how big it would get, but how many people live on the planet now? I don't remember. The population of Earth is what? Approaching 8 billion, right? I think. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Imagine, let's say, that by the time they leave Earth, the population has exponentially exploded to, let's pick a funny number, 42 billion. And every time, so the ships that leave, well, I guess maybe some people don't make it. Somewhere in something I wrote, my brain is remembering that I left, like, some people didn't make it. But let's use 42. Let's say there's more than 42 billion people on the planet, but only 42 billion people make it into the ship. The rest left behind because they are, whatever, not cool enough. We get into, like, class warfare issues and stuff there. Regardless, those 42 billion colonizers, right? They build one ship and it becomes an armada because that one ship goes to every planet in our solar system, which humans, being humans, since they're like, well, we're not going to go terraforming. We're going to go to planets that are already habitable and just colonize them. So the very first thing that this one ship does is go to the nearest planet over and consume it enough to bifurcate. Now, I haven't decided if it bifurcates into 2 ships or 3 ships or what, but there should be a sort of an exponential increase where at some point it becomes, impossible to control, sort of like tribbles in Star Trek. So you can imagine a universe filled with dead planets having been devoured each by one of these ships. And there's just the one planet left. And it's a race to the point of try to stop the human species from crossing the point of no return, which is one of the armada consuming ships landing on that planet and devouring it. So that maybe, just maybe, the human species can liberate itself, can be born out of this one ship, understand what just happened, and come up with a solution. Because so far, the collective computing power and everything, and there's even somewhere in there, in the mess of it all, there are human beings that know, but those human beings live in a weird place, like they're still brains in jars, and they know that they are brains in jars, but they can't interact with the human beings who are living in the simulations because they would break the delusion, right? I digress. That's where we're at with it. That's where we're starting. That's the starting place of this series. And one of the things I want to do over the course of the next several hours, days, and weeks is refine and perfect Chapter 0, which will be like the first, like the thing that explains all that. At any rate, I need to make myself some tea, and I've been inside my head in the background. I've been debating this entire time. Should I just keep the live stream going at all times in hopes that it will, whenever I take a break or whatever, it will lure in new people? Or should I stop and do my traditional breaks and come back? I think I'm going to stop because it'll give me time to reset and think about what I'm actually going to talk about next. And making tea takes just long enough that I don't want to just leave the live stream spinning in circles. All right, friends. Thank you for joining me for that. This has been the official launch. Everything else before this has been a soft run, a dress rehearsal, experimental, exploratory preparation to launch this segment. This is officially now a thing. We're going to do at least one episode like this a week, maybe more, where we sit and really discuss, debate, and explore certain facets of what goes into these book series, and then actually start churning out pages. I know we didn't talk to ChatGPT today. I know we didn't actually write anything today, but my voice is feeling like if we don't tap out soon, it's going to go. So I need to stop. I need to give it a break, and I need to drink some tea. I should probably eat some food too. And I've got a long list of irrelevant and none of your business tasks that I got to do that have nothing to do with any of these projects, because I've got a big family visit thing happening next month. And so I want to make sure that I'm not straggling at the very last minute to get all those things done. So I invite you to stay tuned and make sure you come on by to check out future episodes of the Zeppoverse World Building Wednesdays Writing Workshop, or whatever the title is, and of course the usual gaming action that we will be engaging in. Every time that we're playing a video game, remember, I'm going to evoke the setting of that video game as a reality that people think is their actual lived reality. So from Just Cause to Far Cry to Assassin's Creed to Deus Ex, Mankind Divided to Tropico 5 to Fortnite to Call of Duty to everything in between, at some point or another, I want to create a sequence or a short story or a little parable, some sort of really weird fan fiction thing that will be these book series are going to be more mosaic than I think most people are ready for. But go read the sample chapters on Wattpad. You'll get a taste of what I'm talking about. And more importantly, if this appeals to you, if you are an avid reader, if you are into sci-fi, if you are into action adventure, if you are into new, original, experimental works of literature, then you want to be a character in it. You want to be one of the readers, commenting, asking questions, dropping critique, and even trolling. Haters are welcome. Your engagement helps more than it hurts. So come on by. Visit solo.to/Mr. Zeppo and check out that Wattpad link. Get yourself a free account and start reading and start dropping questions and start dropping commentary. Not just because it would help, but because all of that will be a working MacGuffin in the book series. And if you don't know what a MacGuffin is, pin on the corkboard. There's some videos and some episodes I've already discussed. Oh, I wish I had working MacGuffin video queued up. I should find that, re-download it, and have it ready to go on my iPad because it's applicable. I'm not going to go looking for it now. I made a cute explainer video of what a MacGuffin is a long time ago. I think it's cute because it's in a robot voice, not my own. Okay. Thanks again. Your viewership is deeply appreciated. Go be good human beings out there in the real world. And yeah, if this is not quite up your alley, but you think you know someone that would be down, let them know. Point them in my direction, please, and thank you. And real quick, before we go, I almost forgot. Sorry. It's a smack around the microphone. Let's do one last look at stuff. Another reason I like to take breaks and reboot is when when I'm not getting sidetracked by other things, it gives me the opportunity to A, get up, stretch, walk around, and be productive in other areas of my home life. And also makes it so that my content is, I think, approachable to people who find a 4-hour or 6-hour live stream recording intimidating, or like, why would they want to watch it, right? And then when I'm feeling really motivated and on fire, my breaks are relatively short, and I create multiple episodes in a day. But that's also driven by the fact that the Magic Movie Loop Maker doesn't like it when I put in multiple video games in one video. Otherwise, I'd be playing Black Ops 6, and then, I would be doing episodes where I go through all the Call of Duty games back to back to back. What are we doing? Oh, right. We're about to do TikTok Live real quick. Final TikTok roll call of the day. Here we go. Stacy Bug was the last person that joined. Thank you so much for dropping by. A total of 21 viewers so far. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Forgive any redundancy when I drop the Magic Movie loops made from this past and future episodes. But that's the way the market tumbles, right? That's the way we're supposed to commodify ourselves. I'll be back soon enough with more Zeppoverse World Building Wednesday Writing Workshop action, plus a little more gaming, video gaming action as well. I'm going to stop rambling. I don't know what else to say. I've said goodbye too many times. DJ Zed, were you playing music or not? I thought you were, but then I looked down and it wasn't moving. There we go. Okay. Peace out, folks. Be back relatively soon. Thanks again. Hasta la vista. I'm going to stop rambling now.